It's time for Pod of the Dead. Join us!
Just make it into a little ditty and then I won't forget it ever. Alright. Hello and welcome to Pod of the Dead, the internet horror film club that nobody asked for. I'm your host today, Natasha, and with me as always are the two final ladies. Nope, said that wrong.
Just keep going.
And with me as always are the two final girls, Nicholas.
I am a lady.
And Stephanie.
Hello.
Hi, guys. This week we are going to go over 2022's Smile. What is your guys' history with Smile? Have you seen it before? Tell me a little bit about it.
I remember it coming out, and I saw the trailer of it, and it gave me a certain feel that made me not necessarily want to go watch this movie. Not because I was scared, but it's like, oh, it's Smile, like it's like this people smiling at you, you know, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. Beyond that, our daughter Noelle watched it and said it was the scariest movie she'd ever seen, so I was like, okay. And then our other daughter Maya said she got like 10 minutes in the movie and she couldn't, it was too scary, and I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this. So that's my history with this film, and then seeing that it's getting a sequel this fall. So I was like, okay, like obviously people really like this. So, you know, when you brought it to the table, I was like, yep, I wasn't interested in watching it when it came out. But it definitely has done well, like in popularity. So that's my history.
My history is the same as Nick's. That is all.
I saw this.
I didn't know anything about it, so.
Right. I saw this streaming right after it came out on platforms. So, this is my second time watching it.
Okay.
So, were you aware of it, like in the sense of trailers and stuff like that prior, and you were like, "Man, when this comes out, I'm gonna watch it," or was it like you were scrolling, you saw it, you're like, "Oh shit, I didn't know this was on streaming, so I'm gonna check it out."
I think we saw a preview for it. I'm almost positive we saw a preview for it in theaters, and that kind of sealed the deal. As far as the rest of the marketing campaign, I think I missed out on all of that as it was happening, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But I do remember seeing a preview and going, oh, this looks like it's up my alley. And it was. So. It was a little backstory. Smile is, like I said, a 2022 American psychological supernatural horror film, written and directed by Parker Finn. This is actually the second installment of the Smile franchise. Oh. He originally had made a short film called Laura Hasn't Slept, which is what Smile's based off of.
Okay.
So it expands on that. It stars Sosie Bacon as a therapist who witnesses a bizarre suicide of a patient, then goes through increasingly disturbing and daunting experiences that lead her to believe she is experiencing something supernatural. So this is in my wheelhouse. I love psychological horror films, so this was like...
There are very specific things about this movie that Steph and I were talking about, and we'll get into when we get into spoiler territory, but there are bones here that it could have been awesome, like for me anyhow. Yeah. But the route that it went, its narrative, like what it wanted to do, was not what it wasn't that I didn't expect it, it's just like I was like, okay, all right, like that's where, like, especially when I'm being told by people that's like, oh man, it's so scary, I was expecting certain things.
Yeah.
Now that's not me saying that like I bought into the hype, because I went into this going like, I'm not expecting much, but people are saying it's scary, but nothing scares me. So that doesn't, like in a movie, like there are certain things that scare me, like late stage capitalism and fascism, but in a film, it's not going to do it.
That's fair.
Yep.
So I'm not going to go into 2022 in movies because we just did that last week. But instead, I want to talk a little bit about their marketing strategy for this movie because it seemed different and it was like in the wild. So a couple days before the movie released, the actors of the films showed up at different baseball games and would sit behind home plate with that smile and just stare dead into the camera. And they wouldn't move. They would just be staring directly into the camera while like the audience around them would start to get uncomfortable. Yeah. And I think that's really, really cool that it's just like happening out in the wild. They also did it at the Today Show. So I feel like I may have seen it on like ESPN or something like that.
Yeah,
and it didn't register. Yeah, it didn't register that that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, because like
that was really cool.
They were like when I saw it, it wasn't like natural in the sense of like seeing it and being like, what the fuck? It was people going like, hey, have you guys seen what Smile is doing? Blah blah blah. And they showed like some clips, and I was like, oh, that's cool. It's kind of like a guerrilla marketing campaign where they're just out doing like crazy shit. It's not like a flash mob, but it's that idea of just like, and here's like some things that make you uncomfortable, and then by figuring that out, you are then like turned on to their movie, which is really smart. It's not like exactly like Blair Witch, but it's reminiscent in that sense of like, what the fuck am I like, what's going on here? And it's I don't think it's the first of its kind to do that, but it was definitely very successful at it.
Yeah, I agree. So what do you guys think this movie was made for outside of the marketing campaign? What do you think the budget was?
Oh my gosh, we were talking about this and we had no idea.
I think considering this was like distributed and stuff by Paramount, right? Because I think that's what we watched it on, was Paramount Plus. I mean, visually, I don't think that it makes sense for this to be the budget, but knowing I'm guessing it's probably like $20 million.
Okay.
I'm going to go with 4 million.
Wow. It's 17. So Nick was much closer.
Yeah, like it's just one of those things that like it's not in the camera or anything like that. It's more just the like weird shit that we don't see that like the budget goes into is where I figured, like, considering like I said, the marketing, it was everywhere. Like when it came out and stuff, like you didn't get a chance to not see a commercial for it or whatever. If you were on YouTube or you were on anything, there's a smile. And considering this, it feels like a Blumhouse movie in the sense of like, that's where you would think the marketing or the budget would be, like in that 5 to 10 million, but it's like, oh no, it's fucking Paramount and all that stuff. It's like, it's going to be double what you think it's going to be for no reason.
Right. Just because it's Paramount.
Because they can throw the money at it.
Yeah.
And with that budget, you would expect a lot more, like especially in the horror like area and stuff.
We've watched a few movies that were high budget that still didn't deliver in the high budget.
Yeah.
So
correct.
I just
but I'm just
throw
saying,
it
like,
out there and guess.
When you think $20 million for a horror film, you expect to see $17 million to see a horror film. You expect, some special effects like magic. Which, yes, there is some, but like not a lot.
No.
Especially like when your creep factor is based on just a person smiling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like $17 million for that. It's like, okay.
Yep. Those smiles, man. Man. All right. So what do you think it grossed? Based off of that.
I'm going to guess. Let's see here. This was rated R, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna guess that this grossed $101 million.
Okay, I'm gonna go 62.
It grossed over $217 million worldwide.
Yeah, I knew
105 domestic.
I was close domestically, baby. But I knew that it had to have done well, like, because for them to also make a sequel like 2 years later, like they're doing the Saw thing in a way. Like it granted, like, I mean, the second one's not out or anything, but the fact that, they got their money, it's such a vague thing that you can do whatever you want with it. It just has to be creepy, right? It's got to have people smiling because they don't explain anything. Realistically, do they? people, and I'm not asking for expository dialogue, but they just kind of go like, "This is what I think happens." But like in the next movie, it could be another person just going, "Well, actually, this is what I think happened."
Yeah,
because there's no like concrete thing. So they could make these fucking movies forever as long as they're turning a profit.
Yeah.
I hope they don't, though. I want to see the second one, but even with that, the storyline of the second one isn't as enticing as the first one.
The second one
follows like a pop star.
The second one's got to be better than the first one because the girl in the second one looks like she can emote and act and more than just flat and screaming.
Yeah,
that is a huge problem I have with this movie. But like I said, we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
So I want to say something else about the budget or about the grossing of this movie. It was actually originally supposed to just go straight to streaming, which I think would have done terribly for it. So Paramount was just going to throw it on their streaming platform, but since it tested so well during test screenings, they decided to put it out in theaters. It ended up being the second highest grossing horror movie that year, and it was on the top 10 movies in general for 2022.
So what was the high? Do you have it in front of you what the highest grossing horror film for 2022 was? Because I think was it Nope?
I think it was Nope. Yeah,
that's what I thought. Like I wasn't sure. I don't have the like. This wasn't my episode today, so I completely did not look into anything. The only thing I did check out was the director, specifically to see like some credentials and stuff because I wanted to watching it. I was like, this feels like it's got a lot of writers. Oh, I'm going to do this and like a lot of rewrites, and then to find out it's like one writer, I was like, what the fuck? Like that. There's I just need to get past that wall.
Almost there.
Because I don't. No, it's not about that. It's not about that. It's just I don't.
You have so much to say.
If people haven't seen this movie, it's still extremely new in the sense of people that don't go to the movie theaters and stuff. Like we are those people. We go and I tried to see every horror film that's come near me in theaters and stuff like that. Not everyone's like that, Yeah. So I don't want to spoil anything.
So you mentioned, you thought it had a lot of writers. It was just Parker Finn, but he did have a lot of inspiration based around this. He was quoted in a 2022 interview. He was talking about his inspiration for the film, and he said, some films that were on my brain when I was making this in a big way was certainly Rosemary's Baby from '68 and how that sort of positions us with that, Rose's character and the camera movements and the blocking, and that is based off of Rosemary's Baby. Todd Haynes' Safe from '95 is a movie that he was consistently thinking about during the movie, the way that it places you in the character's anxiety and just keeps ratcheting it up as it goes down, as you go down the rabbit hole. And then Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Cure from 1997.
Okay. Because there is a very specific movie, two specific movies that I thought were heavily inspired, and that is
one of them is impossible for it not to be. So
go on. Sorry, you start, go ahead.
He said just that sort of nightmarish atmosphere of that film throughout that investigation. It was something that was definitely on my mind as he was making it. So those were his inspirations, but there's also a lot of talk about what critics think it was stylized after.
Do you have that?
I do.
Okay, yeah.
Marissa Maribel.
I'm just really interested, watching the film. I was like, this reminds me so hard of, if I took, this peanut butter and this jelly and smashed it together. This is what I think it is. So
this might work into that because I did see some similarities from other movies that I had seen. So IndieWire's Marissa Mirabal wrote, Smile navigates unhealed trauma through a supernatural lens and a mischievous juxtaposition, despite feeling like a shadow of other stories, and adds that it delivers a captivating and claustrophobic mental hellscape that will cause one to both grimace and grin. She noted that it has similarities to Oculus It Follows, and The Ring.
Those were the three movies that we talked about last night.
That's exactly what we talked about.
Exactly, because like it is The Ring meets It Follows, and then Steph was like, "There's so much about this that's Oculus and everything," and I was like, "You know what? Yeah, but like for me, The Ring and It Follows were like in my face hard." Now this is the thing though. Oculus, I think, is a successful movie. Ring, I believe, is a successful movie, and It Follows, I think, are. This one, I don't think is.
Okay.
Like, but it definitely has. It's neat to see someone else pick up on that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. From here on out, we are going to be in spoiler territory. If you haven't seen the movie and don't want to be spoiled, you can fast forward to about the last 10 minutes of the episode where you'll get your homework for next week. If you want to come along with us, from here on, we are going to spoil, chat, hear likes, dislikes, all of the deets of Smile. If you'd like to be part of our horror film club, make sure to follow us at Instagram, Threads, and Facebook at Pod of the Dead. All of our episodes can be found at podofthedeadorelse.com or wherever you stream music and podcasts. If you have movie recommendations or questions for us, email us at podofthedead666@gmail.com. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. Or else.
Oh boy.
Nick.
Yeah.
Give me that sweet 10 out of 10. Written straight from your heart.
I don't know how to read. Can I just not do this?
Then you can just free thought, let it roll.
Okay. All right.
No,
don't do that.
Based on what's written.
Based on what's written. All right. This is all right, here we go. 10 out of 10. It's rare to find a movie that checks all the boxes you're looking for. This is true. This is me. This is true. It is very rare to find a movie that checks all the boxes. Smile succeeds on so many levels. The acting, the dialogue, the sound, the cinematography, the building of dread, the scares, and the payoff. Side note, I agree with the sound.
Yeah.
I liked the sound. It deftly uses the real-life horror scenario of feeling powerless and alone to build tension, and has so many wonderful and earned in-movie jump scares, although many are more just actual scares. Side note. Sorry. All the jump scares in this movie were it's quiet and then it's super fucking loud, and
there was also something on the screen.
They were so
to say
bad.
They're warranted is what my problem is.
Oh my god!
Yes, there was a lot of jump
bad.
scares. I don't believe they were warranted.
I agree. They were terrible.
Well, you said to write this like with what is going on here, so. And then the third act hits you so hard that you nearly tear the theater armrest off from pure terror. Okay.
No.
This person is fucking horrified by this movie.
Yeah.
Sosie Bacon is excellent as Rose. Her descent into madness and fear is handled with precise care, and you really feel her emotional state. I really don't, because here
I don't either.
Here's my thing: is like she's just so flat all the time that like the only direction you get is she's just flat even before it happens, like before the shit happens, and then like when we'll get there. Okay.
Yep.
So much to say.
I continue with my 10 out of 10 review. You get locked into the prison of solitude she feels, and it keeps you at the edge of your own sanity throughout the film. The rest of the cast is filled out with some other great performances, but doesn't have quite as much to work with, as he plays straight-laced boyfriend that serves as the mirror of society that Rose looks towards for help and doesn't get much in return from. That is a sentence.
Ooh, that's a sentence.
The cinematography is creative and deliberate, and it builds a world that feels both familiar but also uninviting, especially as the film progresses. The score is incredible, but the use of the music as well as the sound design to enhance the moments of dread as well as the scares. And that's the big thing that I noticed with it, was like the sound design and stuff. That's where I get the thing of like where they're comparing it to Cure and like The Ring and stuff like that, is like that weird, dark, ominous, like atmospheric kind of stuff. And I did like that. That was something I mentioned very early on in the film. I was like, I like the sound design in this. And without spoiling too much, the evil entity ends up being one of the most memorable and horrifying things in modern horror history.
No.
That is a huge fucking overstatement. Because I have a few. This is okay. Hold on. This is a much watch for horror and thriller fans. Okay, so there you go.
Yes.
There's the 10 out of 10. I would like to talk about like what they said about like the most memorable horror entities in modern horror.
Okay.
That leads me to believe that this person has actually not seen a lot of modern horror in the sense of like a memorable entity. Like, so, okay, memorable horror creature or character, right? Mm-hmm. Art the Clown, right? Like, whether like or dislike, right? You got like Art the Clown, you've got fucking...
But is art a creature? I think that goes into that discussion of what is a character versus a creature. I don't think the point of it was that. It was most horrifying things. Yeah, the entity ends up being one of the most memorable and horrifying things. That's it, just things. Oh. Okay.
So it's referring to it as an entity, but I mean, I'm not going to go down a huge list, but like of the modern era, you've got like the Babadook. You've got, like, there's so many different things that I think that the entity at the end is kind of forgettable, personally. But
I don't necessarily think it's forgettable. I think it was jumping the shark, to be honest.
Okay.
And it reminded me of the mother from Barbarian, which I also didn't like.
Yeah, I hated the face
just
of it.
Too much, yeah.
Well, see, but beyond that, even I think that what she is, or the reviewer is referencing, is when it pulls the face off and you actually see the entity. Mm-hmm. We'll go into it in a bit, but like I expected it to go a different route. But
I see. Yeah. All right. Okay, Steph.
1 out of 10.
What do you have to say?
Okay. This movie was just a compilation of Sinister. It follows The Ring. It's just a compilation of Sinister. It follows The Ring. Nothing original about this movie, only a few jump scares, predictable ending with no backstory of how it started, etc. I liked how they started the movie like it was an original horror flick from the 80s, but again, nothing original was original was highly disappointed. Do not recommend this for any horror fans. The previews was all you needed to watch to know the beginning, middle, and end of this movie. The only time I smiled was when the credits came into the screen as it was ending. There is nothing left to say that this movie was a complete trash. And I don't necessarily disagree with them. I did not like this movie.
I mean, you weren't supposed to smile. That was the whole point. Smiling's not good.
I was hoping to smile when, like, the creature, like, there was certain stuff. Are we just kind of in open stuff now?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So, all right. Okay. So, we've got this entity. Like, I'm okay with it. Like, they're saying, like, it doesn't explain and everything. I'm cool with it being vague, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. I'm cool with that. That's where, like, The Ring kind of comes in, where it's like, you know, you see the video, and we think that after 7 days this happens, because they basically fucking do that.
It's the exact same thing in this fucking movie. Like, verbatim, somebody kills themselves in front of you, and then you take the entity into you, basically, and then it ends you within 7 days. Like, that's what it is.
And I'm okay with that. Now, here's my problem, though, is that by the end of it, when we're in the cabin, you know, and we see the form and everything, right? It's like
supposed to be her mother, but not her mother, but then...
Are we to believe that it's a physical form, or it's specifically a mental, like, parasite demon kind of thing?
I think it's a parasite demon thing that just takes the form of what your trauma is.
Which is fine. But, like, there's so, like, when it ends up, like, it pulls its face off and then crawls in her mouth, I don't, like, that was a huge, like, what?
Yeah.
Like, and like I said previously, this film feels like the reason it got popular is because of younger, high school students or people that aren't really, and this is not gatekeeping. I'm not trying to be gatekeeping, but people that don't have a lot of reference or history with horror films seeing this and being like, this is the scariest thing ever. And it feels very like hot topic in the idea, again, not trying to be shitty about that, but in the sense of like younger people just being like, wouldn't it be fucking scary if like someone was like staring at you smiling? Yeah, that'd be fucking scary, man. Like, you don't even understand. Like, it would just be like staring at you, and it's like, that's all it fucking does. And like it's supposed, and
not a lot either. It's just very like minimal.
And I'm okay with the fact that like it's this thing like stalking you down and everything, and that's where It Follows comes in and is so much more successful in that like claustrophobia, that fucking tension of something getting closer to you and getting closer to you. The difference is that movie came out like 12 years ago, I think, right? And it's just so much more what's the word that I want to say? Effective at it. Because what I feel this movie does is it just expects everyone that watches it to think being smiled at and stared at is creepy and scary. And if it doesn't do that, it fails horribly, because its two tricks are stare and smile and loud jump scare. That's it.
It's also the descent into madness because of your mental health stuff. And I think that the mental health part of this is what's probably scary to some people, of like being at a place where you are normal and then your slow descent into madness. And then basically she ends up dying. But like, I think that's the fear in that, and in that you go crazy is part of it. Probably.
Well, it is. So Finn said that was the main universal overpinning of the movie, is that universal fear of not being believed. And in an interview with Sosi, they talk about like the common theme of it is people refusing to believe the character. She says that women's pain is often ignored historically and currently. It's exhausting, and I see it happen all the time. It's typically just not denied. A lot of times you'll hear, it's not that bad. It's all in your head. And that's the part where like, yeah, so her acting isn't like the best, but it fits the character that she is, because she's meek and trying to like convey this. And she's so sad and falling apart and distraught, and there's no one there to help her. I'm thinking of like the scene with her on the porch with her sister, where she's just crumbling and no one's there to like catch her. Every
fucking side character in this movie is horrid. Like,
yes, except for the ex-boyfriend,
but not even in a good, believable way.
Correct.
It's so over the top. The amount of, and this isn't me being triggered or whatever, but the amount of like how hard they went to try and like everyone is going to say some sort of horrible way of saying like, maybe you're not doing well mentally. It's like fucking nuts, cuckoo, like blah blah. Every single time, it's literally like they had a list, and it was like, all right, every single time someone's going to talk about her and everything, we're going to use a different like disparaging phrase, and it feels very cut and paste in that sense, where it doesn't feel natural to any of the characters. None of them, and I understand like, like you shouldn't, like it's not that I needed a character to like. It's just that they were so horribly, like, they wanted all these characters to be disliked, but they were written horribly. Not in the sense of, like, they were written, like, so evil. They were just badly written. Like, none of the things that they said made sense in, like, why they're getting to this point already. Every single person, like, once the boyfriend is brought to one little mishap and stuff, he just goes to the deep end, right?
Yeah.
Which she does address later, but it's so unbelievable. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
It's too over the top. To me, there's no like slow descent into it of like exhaustion or like just having okay, well, you maybe like suspended disbelief like this, there really isn't anything wrong, but you're exhausted because you're dealing with this person's mental health decline and like all of that stuff. You would expect that to be like maybe part of the storyline, but it's not, because everything is so abrupt and it's so out in left field, and it's acted in a way that it's like, well, I can't deal with this anymore. Dude, you haven't dealt with anything. We haven't seen anything in this. And so like none of the characters, it makes no sense from literally any of the characters. The sister is very selfish and self-absorbed, and you can tell that from their meeting for their, like, are you coming for her birthday? And, you know, oh, well, you could at least buy a gift for his birthday and all this shit, like all of that stuff. But like, this killed me. So anyway, I know why you like this movie, Tasha. I get it. It has Mike Flanagan written all over it.
Yeah, it does.
It does. And so when we were watching
it wishes it was Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, I agree, because Mike Flanagan's movies are actually better. But yeah, so in this, it does a lot of the Nick didn't notice this, but I did, like focusing on things like with this the alarm, like we're going to show that the alarm, and this is how it's set, and this is what it looks like when it's set, and then when it wasn't set, now we know what it looks like. And like we were
I didn't catch that.
Yeah. And then
heavy-handed foreshadowing.
And then the same thing with the present thing and the cat missing and like all of this stuff.
That was my favorite part of the movie, and I cheered at a dead cat because that was the one part in the movie that I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. I'm here for this. But like every other bit of that scene is fucking bad. Like everyone's just like up against the walls, like, oh my God. And then she like falls through the table and just screaming. Yes. I'm just like, what? Like,
and nobody cares. And like, that's the problem. And I understand like the idea of this movie being like, people don't care. This is society, but you're looking at your family.
Every single person that is connected to this person, except her boss, does not care. And her ex-boyfriend, who just
like that she forces to care. Yeah.
He's just trying to get it in.
So like that's the thing for me. Like so she gets a cat and it gets wrapped in this thing. She doesn't recognize that she killed the cat and put it in the box, which I already knew that's what was going to happen. Yeah. So I have no like surprise here. I'm like, that's what we're doing right now. And
I forgot that it happened the second time I watched it. And it was still scary.
Yeah.
Was it scary? Like realistically, like.
No, scary is not the right word. I felt so bad for
like
Rose.
Okay.
No, like a pit in my stomach, because like leading up to that, you know, she doesn't want to go. She's already, you know, feeling like shit, but you see her like trying. Mm-hmm. She's putting her makeup on. She's practicing like, I'm going to put on this good face. Yep. And then she's like giving thumbs up. Like, I just feel so sad for her in that, where she's like, all right, I'm here. You're going to like what I got you. I got you what your mom said you wanted me to get you. And then he opens it up and she's just broken, and everyone's screaming because they think that she did it on purpose, and she's like, I don't remember doing it. So it's that scene of like she's trying to like pick herself up, and then just
in that scene
it goes the worst possible way.
That scene would make sense in the fact where, like, you know, I don't even know how to fucking word it. It's like when they were talking, the reviewer was saying like well-earned scares and stuff like that, right? I don't think that any of it's well earned. It's just like, what is going on in this movie where she would do that? Like, there's nothing that explains like why she would put her cat in the box and everything, because all we're seeing is like this stuff creeping up on her. So like that doesn't make sense. It just flat out doesn't.
I agree with that. And I think that's to where we're supposed to get into that. You can't trust the narrator, like, because she'll wake up on certain parts and not realize where she was and things like that. But I do have something to say.
Well, hold on. That would make sense. Like that scene would make sense though, if it didn't happen, like if that was in her head. But it happened. Like that's the thing, is like, because we do see that kind of stuff, like where she goes into the hospital and she kills the guy and everything. That's all just in her head and it's fucking with her. That would make sense if the cat part was that way too, but it's like, no, she actually did this. That doesn't fucking make any sense.
But technically we don't know if she killed the cat or not. We just know the cat is in the box.
He pulls the cat out and it's dead as fuck.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean that she killed it.
So okay, so is it
the cat? It's just a dead cat in the box.
Okay, but it's a physical entity now, because I thought we previously said. See, this is my problem. Is like it's trying to do all this different stuff, and this is where it feels like there's a lot of different writers, because they're not paying attention to the scene prior. They're just going, oh, it would make sense if this happened, but it doesn't. It has made no logical narrative sense, like from previously.
It would have.
I want to know where the train goes. That's all I kept thinking.
Maybe it's in the cat. Maybe just jammed the train in the cat. We're going in the tunnel.
That's what would have actually, not the cat and the train, but like what would have happened is if her brain would have told her when he opened it that he pulled the train out, but she thought it was the cat because she was worried about the cat. And then she would have, and if everybody else would have been standing there watching her freak out over nothing and being like, what the fuck is going on? And he's holding the train and she's freaking out.
Or even the inverse. She sees him like holding a train. It's like, what? You don't like it? And all this stuff. And he's holding a dead cat. Everyone's freaking out.
Yeah.
But all of that stuff makes sense because it's all mental. But this is a real thing that she did. And I'm just like,
yeah. And it doesn't feed in with the character because, you know, many of times she's like holding a knife and she's freaking out and her boyfriend comes in and I was waiting for him to get stabbed or something happened to him. And none of that happened. So there's no like, she doesn't have that violent component other than when she's dreaming, when she stabs the guy in her dream. And then she turns around and sees the guy with his face peeling off and shit. So like that kind of stuff. So I felt like that was a miss in the sense of like what they were trying to accomplish in this movie. I really like the whole movie felt like, and this is what my biggest argument about the movie is, we know the entire narrative going in as the viewer. We know that this is what happens.
And not because of the trailers and stuff.
No.
They set it up before you see the word smile. They set up the entire narrative right there.
Yes. And so you are literally just knowing everything that's happening. You know the narrative of it. And then you're just following along with the character while she's figuring it out. So you already know everything. So it's not like anything is an actual surprise to you as the viewer. It's only a surprise to the character. And that is where this movie is very unsuccessful for me because I want to go on a journey with you to figure it out with you. Or
there's no mystery.
I don't want to know everything. Like, I don't want to know that this is exactly what happens because they fucking tell you from the very beginning and lay it out very cleanly. This is the storyline. And then that's it.
When the girl's talking to her and stuff, she explains, like, I saw this thing happen. Ever since, this shit's been going on. And then she does it. And, like, now we're into the movie. And nothing else, technically, narratively, happens other than watching this girl descend and find this stuff out, but we already know it. The only thing that we are and this is what I was saying previously, the only thing that we are watching is the descent into madness, which I think is a huge fail, not narratively, but acting. And maybe it was directing. Maybe the director wanted this, which is, you know, more. I'm wrong. This is a $17 million movie that made, I mean, I'm not wrong, but like my opinion is not what the natural consensus is. Yeah.
Correct.
But like when you hear that like this is scary and creepy and all this stuff and blah blah blah, you expect certain things like good acting. Like it was not there.
I mean, that's Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick's daughter, so she's got to have some acting chops.
No. Nepotism does not mean anything. I mean, realistically, like I didn't know that. I guess she does kind of look like Kira Sedgwick. But yeah, it was so bad. Like I didn't expect to go in. I didn't expect to like this movie. Yeah. I thought it was going to be very mid. I did not expect to hate this movie.
Oh, wow.
And I legitimately hate this movie.
I agree.
Well,
like, I'm sorry.
It was horrible.
I'm not trying to be an asshole, but there were so many times that like scenes were happening and I was like throwing my head back, like going like, go move on. Like, why are we still standing here staring at her when nothing, like it's not like we're watching this. It's not like Hereditary where we're watching, there you go, there's a descent into madness that fucking works, and this movie is like, oh man, it's so scary, the descent into madness, and I'm like, are you fucking serious? That is in the same era. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's definitely a Disney-fied version of Hereditary. She, in an interview, Sosie does compare her character she drew from the mom in Hereditary.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, no.
Those are vastly different. I don't think you could ever bridge that
You're
gap.
saying she watched Hereditary and goes, I'm gonna do that. There's no.
No,
She didn't
that
say
movie's
I'm pulling
No.
directly, but she compares that concept.
Not even fucking close.
the storyline. No, the acting. Fuck no. That
Well, no,
movie was fucking
she's
brilliant.
saying the female
I
lead in
know.
this was like watching Hereditary and like use that as inspiration to try and get to these points. Which
She's just not Hereditary's.
she's just not a good actress. That's what
No.
I am here on record saying, Kevin Bacon, Kira Sedgwick, you need to have a talk with your daughter. And
I'm gonna say this was all directorial, like that she was trying to pull something, and this is what he wanted from her. And like, I'm not saying she doesn't have acting chops. I just feel like it was very one note, and then the moments that it was either up or down was very minimal because she was so one note through most of the movie. And then the slowness of this movie was fucking grueling. Like the amount of times she's just standing or sitting there, and we're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why are we spending 27 seconds just focusing on this thing? It feels very much like the parts in like the movie Alien or parts in like The Exorcist, where it's like, this is fucking unnecessary time that's being spent and wasted on things that could have just easily been cut down.
this is
I
definitely
think it kind of like gets you to a point of boredom to where the jump scare might have.
That's what
some
exactly.
effect.
That's exactly what it
100%.
feels like.
And
100%.
And that is not okay. So
For me, that's what I like out of this movie. I'm
Okay.
here
You
for
wanna-
the jump scares, and
Okay.
I'm here
Hold
for
on.
just feeling so empathetic for.
okay, I have a
character.
huge problem with that, and I'm going to ask you some questions. Okay, here we go.
Okay, please do.
So you would rather a movie be boring for 15 minutes to then jump scare you, which takes 5 seconds, to then be boring for 15 minutes to jump scare you for 5 seconds? Because in a 2-hour movie, because this movie was like, what, 147 to 2 hours, somewhere in there, right?
Yeah,
Really
155, I think.
Yeah, like 2 hours. So if we're using that math of 15 minutes, that's 4 jump scares an hour. That means 8 jump scares a movie. For the movie to be boring, but it got you jump scared. Like, I don't,
no, I wasn't-
I don't understand that personally.
I wasn't bored for that that extent of time, but like where she's holding the wine glass for a long period of time.
That
and then
she
something happens and she
underpours the
drops it.
fuck out of
She does.
nonstop.
I agree. It's like you might as well just take a swig out of the wine bottle if
Yes.
you're going to take just a little drink and then just chug it anyway. But no, those parts where it is just so quiet and close
Mm-hmm.
for those, 20 seconds or whatever before the jump scare. But like the movie moves along. Yeah, it's not the greatest
Does
movie
it?
ever made, but the
I'm not
jump
saying-
scares are good. When she loses her mind in the car and then sees her sister come out, I think that's effective when it's in her head and then her head tips over. That one's
No.
good. I
Okay, here, though.
I'm not done talking.
Okay.
I literally jumped and had a huge reaction to where the entity or whatever was just like right here in her house. Like that still gets me. And like they were effective. Parker Finn was quoted in saying, Parker Finn still loves jump scares and doesn't care if you don't. So this movie
fine.
is clearly made for somebody like me and not somebody like you.
But do you know what other film? Granted, it's older, but if like, would you consider films post 2000 as like the modern era of horror, or is that still
2000? That's still too old.
20? Like, because I'm just going back to like
2010's up.
I'd
Like-
say 2010, 2015.
and I don't
Yeah.
have the year, excuse me, in front of me, but The Conjuring, right? It's got a lot of fucking jump scares in it,
Yeah.
and it's so much more effective.
That movie is very ominous, though, like the whole thing, too.
And
And
that's
like,
the thing. I
I
think
thought that
that
movie was way more
I think that that's what they're
successful.
trying to do with like the atmosphere and stuff like that. And like, they didn't like, I don't think they got the atmosphere to properly do jump scares. The jump scares were literally, and this is my problem with jump scares, when they're not done properly, is let's just, like you said, lull you into boredom, be very quiet, and then just be loud as fuck. Because it's not that it scares you with what's happening, it's your body's natural response to go like, Jesus Christ, that's loud. That's not good. That's not
For
good.
me,
That's no
it's
different.
that adrenaline spike.
I understand that, but that's no different than just throwing a fucking glass up against a wall when that shouldn't happen. That is, when done properly and like once or twice in a film, cool. But when that's your only trick, it's really fucking, I would say pathetic. like, because it's so lazy to me.
I mean, I guess I agree with you, but if that's your intention behind the movie, because that's what people are searching for, it makes sense because it fits that stylized thing. I don't like it because that doesn't do anything for me. I don't get jump scared. I mean, very rarely it'll happen, but this movie did zero. It doesn't happen for me, but I can see where if somebody's like really into that and that's just their vibe, then that's fine. It does that. It doesn't necessarily do it successfully, but it does it. And then you could already tell that that's what they were doing going into the movie, because when you started out with the first scene in the movie with all the stuff that happens with the girl in the room, and that in itself was weird, because a lot of the way that things were handled in this movie, like she literally starts like crawling across the floor. She runs to get the phone, and then like she turns back around and she doesn't try to like be like, hey, no, don't do that. Like, and she just fucking slits her throat. Like there was no there's no intervention attempt. There was no, like, even I understand like you don't want to harm yourself.
Ward. Like,
yeah, exactly. She is a therapist. Is
exactly.
Yeah. In the emergency ward. Like this is shit that she deals with.
Yeah. And then the guys run in and there's blood all over the floor and he checks her pulse. Like that was weird. And then,
like, whoa, let's not try to do anything.
Yeah, that's not roll her over and make sure she's, nothing. And then like that, all of that scene in itself was like leading. That's what you're walking into with the movie. And it's kind of like, what the fuck are we doing here? And then you could tell that it was the attempted jump scare movie. As soon as after that exactly happens, then it shows, like, it throws you into Smile, the title. And the title is so abrupt and so obnoxious and like throwing it in your face multiple times. And I was like, what the fuck did they just do?
I'm actually surprised that, like, especially on a streaming platform, that it didn't have a warning for epilepsy, considering how early in the film it does that, which I think it was just completely pointless. But I was just like, oh shit, I hope nobody fucking seizes, because it's literally like a strobe light. And
yeah, so that was the biggest thing for me. Like, you just knew you were going to get into it because they were attempting to jump scare you with just the fucking title of the movie. And so and then you just kind of follow along with it. I didn't find, realistically, when she got to the house, which she decided to go to because they randomly still own it, which was also very odd to me because her mom died when she was like 10 or 11. And then she goes and she's like, she has to be almost 30 because she's a therapist, right? So like I would say she's like mid 20s, early, like late 20s. And so like they've owned this house for 15 to 20 years, and like at least 15 years. And so she goes to this house and like to face her fucking issues, which is weird. And then she sees her mom, and then the whole fucking thing plays out. And the whole time I'm just like, what are we doing? Like, and then she's like, because like she's almost like, I'm going to take care of this myself. I'm just going to go and do this myself. And then she does, essentially. And then her mom like grows into this big monster. And I thought the monster coming out of the bedroom and like following her down the hallway was actually pretty cool looking until you actually get to see the monster and then like its face and like everything else that plays out with it. And then I was like, the hair in front of
it as it's coming out of the doorway was cool.
Yeah, that
was a cool visual.
Yeah, it was. And like the growing of like of all of her, is basically her internalized issues. I can definitely understand that. And then, it's coming after her essentially, and then, to consume her, but it doesn't really consume her. It goes in her mouth.
It goes into you. Yeah, it goes into
But
them.
It's already in you, right?
Yes.
That's the part. I don't think so.
That's where the whole thing is a problem for me.
I think that's when you then kill yourself, is when it finally gets into you. So the woman in the therapist office at the beginning is freaking out because she sees the entity, and then the entity gets into her. Then she stands up, she's smiling, and then slits her throat. So the whole time leading up is the entity
following you,
trying to get to you, I think.
My problem though is, what is our view of the film? Like, what is our position? Are we following the narrator? Are we a separate third party? All that kind of stuff, because so much of it is like, okay, we're seeing what she's seeing. Okay, now we're not seeing what she's seeing.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's where like it's such a clusterfuck of like, what is my perception in this movie?
Well, and how can it be a mental perception if it's not inside of you? Because it's making her do it when she's sleeping. And if it's not inside of you and creating these thoughts when you're sleeping, then it doesn't make any sense, because it would have to be inside of you in order to give you those mental things. You can't just be visual if you're sleeping.
Well, like if it's like, like its influence is able to make you do things. Okay, so its influence causes her to kill her cat and wrap it, right?
Yes.
How is that any different than it killing yourself?
That's a great question.
There's just a lot of that I understand wanting to be vague so it's mysterious, but it's not doing itself any favors.
Yeah, it has to follow the same storyline.
Yeah.
Parker Finn says that there was they liked the ambiguity of the entity in the film. He liked the ambiguity that the film was living in. There's something really interesting about taking something so internal and psychological and then something so external and bombastic, this is talking about the entity, and kind of braiding them together until they're indistinguishable. And I'm hoping that will go the extra distance to get under the audience's skin. He said he didn't want the entity to have a specific name. They wanted it to be kind of...
it just is.
Yeah, that it's unknown, and it's always much scarier when it's unknown instead of pulling off the veil. Even though they do pull off the veil, but we still don't quite know like where it came from or what it actually is. And
I'm down with that, like not naming it, like all that stuff, like because that was like that's cool. Like I do like that. My problem though is like it feels like making it up as you're going along, right? Like the rules. And leaning on the fact that it's vague and the ambiguity there feels like, well, I can't explain it, so it's vague, guys. Like, whatever. And it's like, no, like, you should really know. Like, you don't have to tell me what the rules are, but you should know what the rules are, and it feels like you don't even know what the rules are. Like,
he said that it's important to not put it in any kind of box, and I think that was a misstep.
See, and that's the thing. That always just seems like really, like... backpedally kind of answers when someone's like, so like what do you think? It's like, I mean, like, what do you think? Like it's like that kind of shit. And I'm like, no, like you can tell the difference between somebody that has all the information in them but they're not going to give it to you and you're just going to pick up on stuff. I'll use Talk to Me as a prime example. And this is like, I just made all this stuff and it's like, okay, so what's the core? But instead of going like, I don't know, he's like, oh, what do you think the core is? And it's like, no.
I think the core is dealing with trauma and not feeling believed that you're in pain.
Trauma demon, exactly. It makes sense. But there's so many, like I said, there are very interesting things that are posed in this movie that they could have went and made a successful narrative movie. The problem is I think he leaned so much into like it's just gonna be jump scares, so the jump scare is what was more important to the narrative than the narrative itself. And that's my problem, is if like I said, if that's your trick, it's not doing any service to the narrative.
Yeah, I agree. And then the other thing that got me was like she's at this house dealing with this demon at the end that's basically swallowed. I just looked at it as that she already has it in her and now it's just fully consuming her, and then that's where like it's finally filling every nook and cranny, and that's how I looked at it, like a virus spreading. Well, sorry,
go ahead.
And then with the boyfriend at the end, the ex-boyfriend or whatever, just randomly showing up. I was like, what's going on?
He followed her Snapchat location, okay?
Yeah, that was so out in left field. Was for me. What the fuck? Yeah, and then he shows up, and then he's the one that now is going to have to deal with the same shit she just did, all because she got him involved.
The only creepy like atmosphere of the movie for me was when she was in the house before we really dealt with stuff, but like when she's walking through the hallways with the lantern and like the decrepit house, that works. Yeah. Like it's creepy. I like that like kind of vibe, but like that's 2 minutes. 2 minutes of the whole movie.
The whole movie.
Really. And then like when it comes out and you're just seeing the hair come down, that was effective. Like that.
I thought that was.
That little pocket. I liked that.
And the part with her mom, like her talking to her, was good too.
Realistically, narratively, as a character, why did she go to that house? Like, did she literally, like, because my brain goes, she's going to this house, because it reminded me of a movie called Fallen with Denzel Washington from the 90s, where there's like this demon that's hopping through bodies, causing all this stuff to happen, like all these people to kill people. So I was like, okay, so is she going out here because it's secluded to kill herself, so then the demon can't pass on to somebody else? That makes sense narratively, because she has that information. She has it. If that's not her purpose to go out there, then what is her purpose? So she's going to deal with her trauma because she has no reason to think that that's going to help anything.
Yeah. And she mentioned that she needed to be alone. So there is that. But then, yeah, when she gets there, then like the demon then it turns into like literally facing your demons instead of just like trying to hold out and be secluded for the rest of your life or killing yourself so then it doesn't pass on. So yeah, that doesn't really link up.
Yeah. So like how I looked at it is like, you get out there, you're secluded, you just kill yourself, and you save the day. And that's still a downer ending because they give you the downer ending that sets up for a sequel that they could have also done in a better way. They could have had her kill somebody else, like the boyfriend, which I thought she was going to do. That's a whole other route that I thought they were going to go. Kill the boyfriend in front of somebody, then it passes on to them, and she's still, because the guy in prison has already done that. So we have that information we can do. Yep. She doesn't follow the information that she's given at all. And
neither does the boyfriend. The boyfriend knows what's going to happen if he watches her burn to death. All he had to do was leave the room.
This is what I'm talking about, where it's just like, here's a creepy thing. But why? Like, it doesn't fucking make sense.
What does it for me is just following how sad Rose is, honestly, and then a couple jump scares. But yeah, the ending does not do it for me. I don't like it at all.
I would suggest, Natasha, if you haven't seen it, to watch It Follows, because if you like to watch a descent into madness and people not believing people and something stalking you and it's really fucking creepy, watch It Follows. It's the basic way that people are like told about this movie. It's like, oh, it's like a demon that follows people like an STD. It's passed on sexually.
That's what I know about it.
Yeah, exactly, right? But it's actually
so
good.
I haven't watched it.
It's actually good, and it's not like gratuitous. Like, it's not like a porn or anything like that. But like, that's the idea behind it. And it works. As dumb as that may sound, it works. And it's the same thing. Smile has like a cool core where it's like, this entity passes itself on after somebody causes somebody else trauma. You are now witnessing this suicide. Therefore, now it's going to feed off of that trauma. That is cool. I like that idea. It doesn't fucking do itself any service, though, in that. And that's my problem. Because, like Steph said, we're given all the information at the beginning, and now all we're doing is watching the descent into madness that I feel is poorly executed. But that's me.
Agreed.
All right. Well, do you guys want to get into review territory?
Do you want to go last? Because you're going to be the champion.
Okay. You can go first, honey, but we're going to guess what you're rating it.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to guess you're going to rate it a 3.
That's what I was thinking, too.
You girls are right. I'm giving this movie a 3. For all the reasons that I'd said previously. It gets its 3 because it's got a cool idea. I am going to go see the sequel that comes out because I pay for my monthly pass. So I have, if there's nothing else that comes out that weekend, I will check it out. I'm not expecting to like it, but this is my thing.
It's going to be better than this one.
It's got to be better than this one because I have a feeling that maybe some notes have been given and like maybe there's like some extra writers on board that like make a narrative. And the girl just in the trailers itself looks like she is a better actress. And that is the biggest problem with it. Well, the two biggest problems is the narrative incongruity throughout it. It just feels like a piece of this, a piece of that, a piece of this, smashed together. This is what people think is creepy. Let's throw some jump scares in it, and that's it. That's not a successful movie. I'm looking for a movie that, like, I go, the story was cool, not just the idea. And then also on top of the incongruity is just the acting is atrocious. Super fucking bad. They're either overacting or underacting the entire time. And I think
that's all director related.
That has to be director reason because the head doctor is the dude from Harold and Kumar, and I've seen him in other stuff and he's a good actor.
Yeah.
So this is all like the casting director, the writer. This is my problem with quote unquote big budget horror films because there's so much oversight. Now, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be any oversight, because then you get Terrifier 2, which is just like somebody should have reeled him in. This movie doesn't need to be 7 days long. But it feels like too many cooks in the kitchen. And I feel that they fluked out on it being a success, specifically off of Gen Z. This is their spooky, like, oh, it's so fucking creepy, because they're not looking for depth. And I understand that not every horror film needs to be fucking an A24 film. That's not what I'm asking for. That is not what I'm asking for. I'm just asking for it to make some sort of sense. I shouldn't come out of the movie going, what the fuck did I just watch? And not in a good way, just going like, how the fuck did all the people look at this script and go, this makes sense? Because it didn't.
I agree.
3 out of 10. Fuck this movie. But again, like I said, I'm going to go see the sequel. Why? Because I cannot pass judgment on something I haven't seen. I can say it doesn't look like it's for me, but I can't say with good faith that something sucks unless it happens to me. I go, I didn't like that.
Yes.
So that's why I'm always down for any horror film, even if I know that it's not going to be for me, but I can go into it with just giving it what it is. So
yeah.
Okay. Logic about food.
Thank you for bringing it to the table, though, because I would have never watched this otherwise. And all it did, though, is it reestablished my my thing of going like, no, I'm right. Like, I knew that this wasn't for me. So at least I wish that I liked it. Realistically, because then I go like, ooh, what else have I fucking turned a blind eye to, specifically because I'm an elitist bastard. But
yeah.
Not this one.
Nope. Nope.
Okay.
I think Steph gave this a 2.5.
Ooh, man. Let's see here. I'm going to go at 2.
Nick's right. I gave us a 2.
Oh, my God.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I fucking hated this movie. This was up there with The Exorcist.
Oh my God.
It was awful. Actually, The Exorcist actually has a narrative, so that makes more sense. This one does not. If you want to see a movie that's actually doing something similar to this movie, just go fucking watch Oculus. Go watch The Ring. Go watch fucking Talk to Me, because the same thing, entity touching you, getting with you, following you through madness, kind of all of that shit. Go watch those movies. Don't watch this movie. This movie and every
PSA.
Yes, and every single shape of the movie, I was dissecting it, trying to figure out is there a piece of this I really liked? Is there anything? The acting was just fucking so bland. That's what it was to me. It was just so boring. I'm not a jump scare person, so that doesn't work for me. We already covered that. I'm not gonna go into a long diatribe about it. I'm just gonna say I did not like this movie. I would never watch this movie again. I would never recommend it to anybody. I think it was shitty.
But yeah,
so,
that's where
you wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
No. I would say if you want to watch a jump scare movie, I would give people another option of something else. Or if you need an emotional movie that you want to follow, just watch fucking Hereditary and be ruined forever.
That's too much.
It doesn't and that's where it falls into the 3 for me. Is it doesn't succeed in anything. There's not one thing that I feel like, well, if you're looking for this one specific thing, then Smile. The only thing it would be is does it creep you out when people stare and smile at you? That's the only thing I guess it does.
Yeah, I did not like it. So yes, it is because I was like, this is my gauge. Okay, so I obviously know 5 is anything below that I don't ever want to watch again. And then we watched Terrifier 2, and I don't want to give any spoilers if people haven't listened to it, but I did not like that movie either. And I knew what I rated that movie, and I was like, this movie was way worse than that movie for me. So I rated it less than that because of that. So
okay, I want to ask because I'm very interested in it's very rare for me to score this low, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But I always go with a 1 is it's a movie. It gets that. And then why did I give it a 2? Why did I give it a 3? So mine is it gets to where it is because the sound design was cool. And then I said, the 2 minutes of the creepy in the house and the creature coming out of the doorway when you can't see its face. there you go. There's your 3. What gives this a 2 and not a 1 for you? Not a, you know.
I have no idea.
Okay, I was just interested.
I honestly don't. There is still nothing about this movie
I'm always interested in seeing what makes certain scores for you girls, because I understand what does for me. So I'm always interested.
I don't know if I've ever given a 1 on a movie, so I'm kind of like, and I'm kind of like that with 10s. I'm kind of like stingy about both of those, and so, yeah.
I'm becoming more liberal with my scoring.
I need to be a little bit too, but
I'll give 10s. I'll give 2s. I don't know if I'll ever give a 1.
Oh, I will.
That's not.
Yeah, Tasha's giving a lot of 1s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But who knows?
All right. What do we think Tasha's giving this?
I think she's giving it a 6.25.
I think Tasha's giving this a 5.5.
I'm giving it a 6.
Okay.
A 6. So the reason I'm giving it a 6, I liked the cinematography. I like it when they have cool, swoopy cameras. I like the overhead shots. I like the long pans. That in and of itself is a part of the
I'm sorry, not to cut you off. There was one shot in the movie that was very early on that I said to Steph, is this CG or is this a real shot? Because it was an overhead shot of like someone coming in on a gurney, and it like pans up and goes through a window. And I thought that was a really cool shot. And it was done in a way that I couldn't tell like exactly.
It was real. That was real.
That's a cool shot. That is a cool shot.
And they had a really hard time shooting that shot too, for it like going through the glass and things like that. Finn is really big into actual effects and used very little CGI, and the majority of it is practical unless it needed, like obviously the entity, things like that were CGI, but the rest of it he like geeks out on practical effects. So maybe that'll be more in the next movie since he's still getting his feet wet.
Yeah, continue though. Sorry, once you said shots, that jumped back to my brain.
Yeah, I like the sound design. I like the cinematography. The acting could have been better. I liked Sosie's character because she was just so meek. I think that was it could have been done better. But for this movie, it didn't pop out to me as terrible acting. And the jump scares. I'm a highly reactive person.
Yeah, you are.
When it comes to jump scares. So anytime I can get that, like that jump, I love it, because then afterwards I'm kind of like riding a high for a couple minutes. It's nice.
Is that your driving force for horror films?
No, not for all horror films, because some of them aren't successful.
Correct.
Like if there's too much going on and then a jump scare happens, that doesn't happen. But if I'm immersed into something, like it did a couple of times in this movie where you're focused on what she's focusing on and it draws it out just long enough, I can get captivated in that for the jump scare to be effective. I might even know a jump scare is coming and I will force that out of my thought process so I can get that jump scare.
Because you're hunting for it. You're wanting the jump scare.
I want that. Yeah. I knew in the house.
That's where you and I differentiate, because like where you're saying it's coming and you go, nope, I'm going to let it happen. I notice it and I go, that's bad. I shouldn't notice that. So that's a huge differentiation of like your viewing experience and mine.
Yeah.
Neither of them are right, but it's like that is a huge
That's just
difference.
how we watch it. Yeah. I knew in the house that jump scare was going to come. I couldn't remember what it was, but I could tell by how long things were being drawn out that something was going to happen. Yeah. And that was the one that got me the best. And it was great. So for all of that, I'm giving it whatever I said, a 6.
I do have a suggestion for you though, if you like jump scare movies and stuff like that. Another effective one. I'm not a huge fan of it per se because of, whatever, but I have watched 3 of them now, is Insidious. If you have not watched Insidious by James Wan, he made The Conjuring and Saw and stuff like that. Check that out. Like it's an effective jump scare movie if you like that kind of stuff. And I personally, my favorite one of that series is what some people think is the worst one, but the third one I think is the best. But yeah, who fucking knows? Gotcha. But yeah, like if you're looking for something that's jump scare, fodder or whatever, that I think is like that. See, that's the difference. I would suggest that movie, even though it's like a whatever to me. Yeah. If you like jump scares, there you go. Smile doesn't do that for me. in that sense. So.
Is that the reason why you like Scream so much, Tasha? Because those movies are just inundated with jump scares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't need the gore. I don't need slashers. I want to feel sorry for the character and get startled.
Yeah. Okay. So the Screams, those are one of the very few movies that are out there that, because I haven't watched them in so long, and when I rewatched the first one we did for the podcast, and when I rewatched the second one, I had jump scares because I hadn't seen them in a while, and that doesn't happen to me very often. And I think those movies do jump scares so successfully that it kind of, it's hard to watch.
But that's not what it just leans on, though.
No, but like
there's a lot of
narrative too, and they're really well made. But like you go into those movies, and they're so, like, for me, those jump scares and those movies are so successful. I don't know about the new ones because I haven't seen them yet, but like the originals, the first two at least,
it does the same thing.
It's so, I don't know why, because like I don't usually jump scare, but those are the one movies that I know for a fact I've watched, and I think I know when it's going to happen, and it doesn't happen, and then I end up getting jump scared. So that works for me. And I get like the feeling of like what Tasha's saying, like it feels good. It does. I agree. I just don't, it never happens to me. So I'm like, and so I'm one of those people that it's usually 2 steps ahead of a lot of characters in the storyline. I'm like, this is when they're going to do this. And so that's how I already know. And like, I wish I could push it out of my head and not try to figure out the story beforehand, but I just don't work that way.
That's why I like that's why I like the third Insidious though, because it successfully jump scared me multiple times.
Awesome.
Okay, see?
Which does not fucking happen. And I was just like, oh shit, like this actually worked. The reason I've gotten that far is because Wesley really likes them, so we were watching through all of them. But yeah.
That's what I like about the Paranormal Activity movies. That's the whole point of them.
Yeah, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, we haven't seen that yet.
If we ever watch those, you guys probably aren't going to like them, but I'm going to be...
I like found footage, so...
That's true.
See, I don't, so that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So what's that give us? What's that give us for our final score?
That gives Smile a whopping 37%.
Okay, so it's got a higher score than Terrifier 2.
Thank God.
But I think it also still falls in the same thing of this isn't for everybody. Like this is for the people that are jump scare hunters. That's what I'm going. That's what I'm going to call you, Tasha.
Like sad movies.
I didn't catch the sad. I didn't catch the sad.
That was the intention, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
If you want to feel bad for the main character, not as bad as you would for the family in Hereditary. Like, yes, there are movies that are done better, but I would say if you want to feel bad for the main character, yes, and effective jump scares, I think they were done well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, if you've gotten this far and listened to us and stuff, sorry for spoiling it. I mean, but yeah, if you like jump scares,
kind of knew what you were in for.
Yeah, if you like jump scares, I think that's the thing. It's one of those things. Like, I would suggest certain like Dead Alive, right? I would suggest Dead Alive if you really like splatter stuff. But like, would I just suggest that to anybody? No, you have to like this specific style of horror. You have to like splatter and like horror comedies, and that's that. You have to want a certain kind of thing. So
you have to be willing to fast forward through Dead Alive, the first part of it, so you can get to the good parts.
Yeah,
that's all. That movie would have been rated so much higher. Just saying.
All right. So
what's our homework, Nick?
Homework for next week. You had actually mentioned it while we were talking through this. So we will be watching Sinister next week for our episode. Okay. So I don't have the year in front of me. We'll find that out later. But this stars Ethan Hawke, I believe, is who the lead is in this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I await your girls' like take on the film and stuff like that. So
it's from 2012, and you can find it on Hulu, Prime, or Max.
There we go. That's so good. Make sure you do your homework. I don't want to have to make people go to summer school, even though summer's almost over. Give you a Saturday school, I guess.
This last week's homework was hard, so this one hopefully will be less difficult.
I have a feeling. I got a feeling deep in my gut that everyone's gonna like this movie. I just have a feeling.
Okay.
We've been on a stretch of somebody liking it and then everybody else hating it. Yep. I have a feeling that this is the one that's going to straighten out the ship a bit.
I've seen it.
Oh, you have seen it?
I'm excited to talk about it. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Okay.
For Pod of the Dead, you are Natasha.
I am. I was going to do it.
Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
Natasha.
You do it. You're running the show. I'm sorry. I'm stepping on toes.
Yeah, Jesus. For Pod of the Dead, I am Natasha.
I am Stephanie.
I am Nicholas.
Come back and listen to us, or else.